Hey guys, it's the Gundam Boy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Machete. So you can buy this in the superstore when it's in rotation for 200 super credits. Getting straight into the stats, we can see it has 170 damage, and its durable is 80 damage. And it says medium pen on it, but I don't really see the difference between the combat hatchet or the saber. But it does have the most damage between the two. Machete does have more stagger force, going up by 5, but it only has 10 for its push force. And while it only has 170 damage, if you're curious about what it is like with peak physique or reinforced epilepsy, or however you say that word, you can get up to 255 damage or 340 with peak physique. Hey, it's the Gundam Boy, and I forgot to say, for the rest of this video, I'm using reinforced epilepsy, so keep that in mind while I'm testing some of the weapons in these clips. But we gotta talk about its swing speed, oh brother. It is a beautiful looking sword, but when you consider the fact that it swings like this, you probably have a lot of questions for yourself. I've seen a lot of people say that it is a Dune reference to a certain way of fighting, as they require you to move nice and slow to penetrate the shields of enemies. However, we don't have any enemies that function like that, so this is kind of unfortunate design. You might think melee will be your leading charge, the weapon you use to smite every enemy that attacks you, but it's actually quite the opposite. As you'll quickly find that the more bugs that start to pile up on you, the more you'll find this weapon struggling. But you shouldn't be surprised, it's a sword in a horde shooter. Going up against this much voteless might require you just to pull out a firearm. And when I said it had a lot of stagger, I mean it has a concussive amount of stagger, as it pushes things like brood commanders back. It is heavily reliant on this stagger though if you're going to be going up against things like stalkers, because if you let off for just a second, they will flick you away. Which means you'll have to constantly wail on this guy until he dies. And it's good to remember that it is a sweeping melee, which means you'll have to aim it very carefully if you want to one-shot things like warriors, as the slightest bit of mess up in your aim can make it miss. However, this isn't always a bad thing, because sometimes it can work to your benefit. It's really a weapon built for just cleaving into the enemies. While the ballistic shield does provide some defense for you, the slow swing can really leave you in the open for a counterattack. And it's not like this shield provides any cover while you're swinging anyways. Like how real medieval duelists will block with the shield in front, you do not do this with this weapon, and it's why you can never convince me to fight a overseer with the saber. However, this isn't the same for things like the one true flag or the stun spear, as they actually give you a proper guard while you're attacking. It does not perform well in high swarm situations, but I'll have to say, it might not be for the swarm enemies. While it's fully capable of shattering something like a warrior's head, it is completely invalidated by the fact that there's a spore burst and bile bug enemy, as they explode on. And since it's based on a seed, you'll never know when you'll get bile bugs, which means the only safe bug is the one that doesn't pop on you. And for some reason, going up against brood commanders and you wallop them in the head, it pushes them so far back that they start to scale the mountain. You gotta chase them to kill them with it, and it gets kind of annoying. And the overall stance of these stalkers means that it's really hard to land a melee strike on them in general. With how much bugs there are on this front, I just wouldn't really consider melee. I would rather use the stun lance, because at least I can still defend myself while attacking. And when I was trying to get a feel for the melee weapon, by the way, I had a really weird encounter like this. Now against the voteless, I will say it's a pretty alright weapon, at least in small numbers, also when they don't get stuck behind a pole. But the slow recovery of this melee weapon makes it very punishing if you time your melee wrong. Whereas the hatchet and the saber could both chop these guys up in seconds, you take a long amount of time to swipe. There's something about the Illuminate voteless coming up behind you and hitting you in the back that makes you so angry that you just want to fucking dismember them. But if the horde's starting to look like this, it's a good time to pull out the grenades. I did find a niche use against overseers. Hitting him with a machete was actually capable of breaking parts of his armor off. And since you cracked his shell, that means he'll eventually be affected by the stagger. But you do enough damage where you can also pop his head off completely. Or you can just, body swipe him until he dies. But where places where I thought I was gonna have an epic duel against an overseer, I ended it in one swing. The first attack of the combo chain is actually the easiest to land a headshot. Easy to one-tap them in the head if you really need to get him out of the way. Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare. You should keep in mind though, the overseers are kind of buggy melee fighters, as they will kind of sweep when they're standing still. I don't know, they gotta fix this guy's melee attack. And if you're gonna fight a flesh mob with this, then I hope you like playing a Souls-like, because this motherfucker is going to tank a lot of your hits, and you might as well just pull out a flamethrower and roast his ass. Best places I found the sword to be used on is the bot front. What are you looking at? It's a fun way of picking off random automatons that are standing in the open. However, you have to keep in mind that they are strapped and armed, and you will have to do a bit of fancy footwork. However, just like on every other front, I use these primarily as a defensive tool for when enemies like to spawn behind me. And weirdly enough, it will bunk right through the shield of the heavy dev, stealing his arm completely, and baffling Red Monster. And I couldn't believe it, so I went to test it again, and yes, it just goes right through the shield for some reason, making it a very comical weapon for taking down heavy devs. Going for headshots are going to be difficult, considering that these bots don't have a neck. You'd have to hit them square in the face for it to really do anything. And it is a complete counter against things like berserkers, as the swing stun lock them for so long that it allows you to just chainsaw them apart instead. Great for when a berserker sneaks up on you and you just want him to get away. Still try to aim for a consistent point to hit, as it will make it easier for taking these guys down. No, don't use it against the Scout Strider. This was the dumbest one to test it on. It just, look at him. What is he supposed to do? A great defensive tool on the bot front, but you gotta remember that there is also giant cannons on the field. There is a way you can make the machete swing really fast, and it's utilizing the animation cancel bug, allowing you to swing ridiculously fast, going from angry grandpa on your porch to crazy crackhead at 7-Eleven. Oh bro, you get $1. It's as easy as setting the weapon wheel to release an R and then hitting your melee button and then hitting R immediately after. Melee weapons in general, there is sort of a dance to when you should use it and when you shouldn't, and you definitely shouldn't use it when the Bile Titan decides to start barfing on his own teammates. And considering the machete's speed, oh boy, it will make you dance. Me personally though, I use the melee in this game as a personal save me ammo stick. Like, if you're gonna use melee in this game, you're probably gonna want to go all out and pop in peak physique, but you'll just have to keep in mind, this isn't a Souls-like. They can also improve the way the shield swung with the melee weapon so that it actually protects their body more. But there's only a small thing. There's a lot of bugs in this game that need to be fixed before I need to worry about balancing the melee. But what do you guys think about the way melee is in this game? Should they be buffed? Should it be removed? Should you care? I don't know. I'm gonna go stab someone.